Hi there, this is Justin. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how I record my income while working as an independent consultant. If you're not aware, I've been working for about 2 years as an independent contractor, working with startups primarily, helping them with their business operations with a very heavy focus on data and analytics. During this time, I've worked with about 15 different companies, mostly in Israel, but also in the UK, in the US, and one or two other places in the world. When I first started, I wasn't exactly sure what would be the best approach to record income, what I call contractual income. It's not necessarily money that's hit my bank account, because there's usually a delay between getting a contract signed, completing the work, and then actually being paid. But what I want to do in this video is just go through this, the method I came up with. There's been one or two modifications that I've made since I first built this, but for the most part, it's stayed in this format. And I really like it. It allows me to do a lot of really awesome analytics on my own performance and looking at a number of different metrics in my business. So as you can see, we're looking at a Google spreadsheet. So, Google spreadsheets are great, cloud-based, auto-saving. There's a whole bunch of features which we actually take for granted with Google Sheets compared to your typical Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see soon why using Google Sheet helps you with doing some more advanced analytics once you've got enough data. So let's go through each of the columns here, and you'll soon see why this approach is really, really good. So first of all, what is the granularity of this data? The granularity of the data is every individual, I guess you call it instance, where I know that money has been locked down, either through a contract or if I've logged hours with a client where I'm working on an hourly basis. Each row represents an individual entry of income that's been locked down for future earnings. So initially, all my business was done on an hourly basis, but I realized that's not a great model. And over time, I moved to retainers and project-based pricing, which is primarily what I work with today. And by the way, this is obviously all dummy data, but the layout is exactly what I use for my business. So let's go through the columns. The first one is date. This is a regular standard date field. I decided to kind of expand and have a few different date fields just to help with pivot tables and so on. Unfortunately, there are some limitations with Google Sheets in terms of some of the things you can do around dates. So I just found it more useful to do it in multiple columns like this. You might be better in Excel than I am, with Google Sheets than I am, and not need so many date fields, but this is what I did. So I have date, we have the year, which is, it's just, you can see everything's done with formulas. So calculating the date, calculating the month. So you can basically just group everything in a month by the month. And then I have year plus month. The next is client name. And you'll notice these little drop downs here. If you're not familiar with this, it's really, really powerful feature that's available in Google Sheets called data validation. So over here, if I just quickly jump, I have a sheet called variables. And over here, each column here is almost like a table you would have in a database. So what you can do is you can do data validation, and you can pick list from a range. You can go ahead and pick that range. So for example, with client name, I'm actually using the list of clients in the client sheet, which I'll explain in a minute. But for charge type, you have over here charge type. So if I go ahead and I add new charge types, and by the way, the labels, you might be able to improve them. I just call this charge type. If you have different charge types in the future, you can just add them here and they'll automatically be populated in the drop-down. So it's dynamic, which is really helpful. It saves a lot of time. Over here, hours billed, obviously only relevant for hourly billing, my hourly rate. Income is the numerical value of the income that's been locked down. So in this case, my hourly rate is 350. You can see over here I have shekels, so 350 shekels per hour. It's half an hour, so therefore the income is calculated that way. So here you just put in the actual income value. Over here you pick the currency, and this system allows you to collect income from multiple currency types, because I'm sometimes working with US, British companies, so the currencies are not always going to be the same. So instead of creating multiple tables and having to do a lot more work, I just set it up where I put in the amount, I pick the currency, and then I'm basically normalizing everything to dollars, just as having kind of my universal income, my universal currency. And the way I'm doing that is through this really pretty complex function that I've built over here. And if you're interested in getting your hands on this, I'll share it in Slack. But this is basically taking advantage of a Google Finance, what would you call it, function, which is helping me calculate the conversion rate between US dollars and whichever currency I've selected over here. And it does that based on the day. So here's actually the calculated conversion rate on the given date between the inputted currency and the normalized currency, which in this case is dollars. And this way allows me to really understand exactly how much money I made on that given day, because exchange rates are always changing. For your business, you might think this is a bit overkill and you can leave this out. There are one or two kind of issues with setting things up like this. First of all, this is a pretty heavy function, and what I found is when you have a lot of rows, over here I don't have enough rows to actually even demonstrate it, but if you had a few hundred rows here, or a few dozen rows here, you might end up finding that the fields don't get populated because it's just too much work for Google in a way. It's kind of weird, but what I ended up having to do was copy pasting and just pasting the values as is to remove the number of fields that have all these functions, because there's certain limitations in terms of calculations. The next field is new versus repeated. So if it's a new project from a new client, it would be new, and everything after that is repeat. You could do new versus existing. There's different terminology, but the idea here is to record new income, new contractual income versus repeat. And that way you'll see later when you're doing some analytics, we can divide up our income in a given month to see how good we are at getting new business versus retaining old business. The next is invoice number. So this is something I also added. You can get this from your internal accounting system, or get it from your actual accountant who might be sending out invoices. And obviously here you have a one-to-many relationship, because all the hours in a given month I would send in a single invoice. The date when the invoice is sent, invoice status. So right now we have paid, pending payment, and not yet sent. So the idea being that once I've sent, if something hasn't been, if I haven't actually sent an invoice to the client, it's still pending, it would be not yet sent. Once I send my invoice and I'm waiting for payment, it will be pending payment. And once I've paid, it will be paid. And this is also a way for you to see how much money you have in the market, essentially, which or out there in the street, which is still pending. Next is payment method, just something extra that might not be too useful to your business. For mine, actually, it's not that useful either, but I decided to add it. And we have bank transfer, PayPal, Maybe you collect payments, maybe you have cash payments in some cases. And then receive payment on, this is just basically the date when the money hits your bank account versus the invoice being sent. And that way it helps you identify how many days between essentially you sending out your invoice and money collection. You can analyze that per client to see who's better at paying on time or paying in a timely manner versus those that take their time. Now, once this is done, you could use a tool like Tableau to create a very, very basic data sets. Over here, I've got contractual income, which is the first sheet, and I'm joining it with the second sheet with this list of my clients. So this is basically like a table of clients. You have ID, which is just account, when they're signed, the name, the country, the city, the conversion source. This is basically how you got them as a client. I think over time, and especially if you're an agency and a large business, a lot of moving pieces, this will be very useful. And then referred by is who among your network actually brought you the business. And after a year or two of business, you'll see who among your network is really helping you, help bring you new business. So once you got that, you go ahead and create a basic left join between those two sheets. It's something that's really easy in Tableau. Could use obviously Power BI, Google Data Studio, any other tool which directly integrates with Google Sheets. It's another big advantage of doing it with Google Sheets. And then, you can go ahead and create some useful calculations. Here I have income per month, income per status, income by referral source, contractual income per client, and over here I have new versus repeat. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll notice there's some weird stuff here. There's a lot of, looks like there's missing data. In actual fact, it only records 15,000. This is income in USD. And if we go back to our sheet, you'll notice if I sum up income in USD, we actually have 19. So what's going on here? And unfortunately, this is a limitation I haven't been able to solve myself. But essentially, Tableau doesn't work with these calculated fields. So if I go over here to income in USD, you can see that most of them are null, even though in our spreadsheet, they are actually populated. So the way to get it around that is you could just every now and then come over here and you could copy paste the values and just paste them as the values. And that way the formulas aren't being populated. So that's it. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or suggestions on how I can actually improve this system, then please let me know. Thanks for watching.